All right, hey y'all, and welcome back to Above the Tree Line, where we answer your questions about faith, Christianity, culture, and at this point,
all
pretty
those
much
things,
anything else.
Faith, Christianity, culture, etc.
And
all related subjects.
And everything else.
Yes.
So here we
Hi,
are,
Lauren.
Austin Christian Fellowship Senior, founding and senior pastor, Will Davis Jr., here to shed some
And Lauren
light.
Thurston.
Yes, Lauren Thurston.
Lauren Thurston.
The question asker. Here to shed some light on something that
Or not.
has been...
We may not shed light on it at all.
This topic has been huge for the past at least 4 years. Well, I mean, it's
No,
kind of
longer
been,
than that.
but it kind of had a spotlight put on it
With
during
COVID,
COVID.
yeah.
So the question that we received is, with aborted fetal cells,
Easy for you to
my
say.
gosh,
Fetal, she's
cells.
from South Texas. Fetal cells.
With aborted fetal cells being used in certain vaccines, should the church
Good
speak
Lord.
out
What a
against
question.
taking them?
Who's answering this today? I
is
have to
you.
go. I have to go to lunch.
So fetal cells, we got two totally different topics here. We've got the topic of just vaccines in general, which the church has differing opinions on. And then we've got the issue of fetal cells having presence let me bring clarity to this. I researched this. So people worry about the fact that some vaccines are grown in cell cultures that were originally obtained from human fetuses. And that's because viruses require a living host, and if they're going to grow, and the manufacturers of the vaccine prefer to have human cells.
Yeah.
So that's how...
So you're doing great. Keep going.
It's not necessarily that people are like aborting babies and then like putting their cells in this vaccine and shoving it in your body. It's that they are using these aborted fetal cells as hosts.
No.
What? No
Well,
to
yeah,
what?
the original. So you're right. I mean, the cell. There's no aborted fetal cells in any vaccines today, and I'm not here to say I'm supporting or not supporting. Let me just get the science facts out there. When you get a vaccine, if it has fetal tissue cells in there, they are multiple generation descendants of an original human source that was harvested. It could have been a miscarriage. It could have been an abortion. In the 60s and the 70s, there weren't many of them. There were a few. And one I think, infant in 1985 that were harvested to produce a line of cells after that. So we took real cells and made artificial cells from them, grew more cells from them. So we're hundreds of generations of cells away from those aborted fetuses or aborted children, if you want to call them that. And so when you get an injection, you're not injecting real fetal tissue in your bloodstream. You are injecting, there was still a death, how many generations ago. But what you're injecting is the now reproduced line, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of generations later, grown from that cell to get the virus. You got to get the virus to create an accurate antivirus. So we can't say that we have actual cells of deleted, aborted babies in our bodies, but we do have the descendants of those cells. That's the difference.
Are you sure? Are you sure that that's factual?
No, okay. I'm not. That's what I've read.
Okay.
That's what I've read.
Because I'm wondering, so this begs the question. It's the principle of the issue.
Let me tell you, my source is BioLogos, which is Francis Collins, who I believe and I trust. Francis Collins is a Christian. He is the guy who mapped the human genome strand under President Clinton. He's an evangelical. He's a brilliant scientist. And he's the one saying, look, yes, we use these tissues, but they're from the 60s and 70s, and there's no one. So I trust Francis Collins, but he could be wrong.
So regardless, though, of the age of the fetal tissue, so abortions are happening.
Yes.
And
yes.
I guess the question is, are we supposed to do anything? Like the fetus has already been aborted. Should we use their cells we could talk about stem cell research. Should we be using those cells for anything to advance like our medical technology? Or should we be like, we're not touching those because they were aborted?
So if I leave my body to science, I'm gonna really make you mad. If I leave my body to science and I am murdered, does the fact that I'm murdered and it die in an evil way at the hands of somebody else, I'm an innocent victim, make my body less valuable? Should not be used in science because I was murdered. Because yes, the babies were aborted, some are miscarried. Yes, that's true. does that discount the value they can still have maybe in saving lives down the road? That's,
Yeah.
to me, it's the same question.
Well, it's kind of
Notice I'm not answering it, by the
well,
way.
it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing, because it's like people should not abort babies, period. But definitely, I feel like some people are like, you aborted this
okay,
baby and now
wait,
we're
wait.
using them for science.
Let's think about your audience and the statement you just made. and
Aborting
tell-
fetuses.
Tell me why people shouldn't abort. I agree with you. The abortion is wrong 100% of the time. But let's put skin on that for our audience. Why do we feel that way, Lauren?
Because from the moment of conception, God says, before you were even a fetus, I knew you, I put you together, I have a plan for your life. And it is not up to any human being, male or female, to say, nope, God's plan is not going to come true because I'm not going to have this child.
For whatever reason.
For whatever reason.
So we're not sure. We know not all of you agree with that. But,
Women are going to be so mad at me for
well,
saying
I'm
that.
saying it too. But we said it so directly. I just want to say, we really do believe that we have to represent the voice of the voiceless, and there's no more voiceless beings in our culture than the unborn. And potential matters. Potentiality in Scripture is huge. So you may or may not call it a human at 3 months, even though it has a heartbeat. But if left alone, it's going to be a
Right.
human. And so we feel the need to defend those. And we've talked about it in here before. Your rights stop in Christianity. I think your rights stop when you become pregnant. If you don't want to be pregnant, be careful with sex.
But then people also say many times it is not the woman's choice, like in instances of rape and
and I understand
abuse.
that. I don't know if it's my daughter how I'd feel about it. But today my stance is it's still a life, and you got to protect the life. Anyway,
And
we're off track.
there's this whole.
I wanted you to clarify that.
But there is a whole conversation about at what point does it become a human being? But and if you don't believe the Bible, then the Scripture holds no water. But if you're a Christ follower and you believe the Bible, then the minute that cell multiplies for the first time, that God has made that child and made that happen. And like you said, if humans don't interfere, it will continue to grow the way
It'll be
God
a
has
human.
designed
It'll be a
it.
full-blown
So
human.
I mean, yeah, I think before it's even fertilized, we've got like if that person's going to exist, God has a plan for that person. So anyway, that's I'll get off my soapbox on that. But
I just wanted you to speak that down.
Yeah.
You said it. You're very prophetic, and you said it very directly. I want to explain. Here's why we say that.
yeah.
We're not judging.
So
But we are strong on it.
And here's where I struggle with the issue of vaccinations and how they're using this fetal cell tissue is it almost feels like I think it's an incorrect assumption to say that people are having abortions so that we can use the fetal cell tissue in vaccinations. I think it's no, the abortion did happen. What are we going to do with this matter that is left over from the abortion? And it's hard to be like, should we use it or should we be like, that is unholy? And I get why people are torn.
So let me give you a biblical example. And again, I'm just going to create more chaos than I am going to bring any answers today. But the 1 Corinthians 8, meat sacrificed to idols. So there was a big discussion in the New Testament about pagans non-believers in God, who would take lambs or bulls or whatever, sacrifice them to their pagan god, and the leftovers are there. Excuse me, my voice is failing me. And what do you do with that meat that's left over? And there's hungry people, so it would be taken and sold at market. And people would buy it and take it home and eat it because it's perfectly good food, even though it was sacrificed to a pagan god. Well, there's a big discussion, should Christians buy and eat that meat? And Paul said, you got to leave it to the choice of the individual Christian. If their conscience says, I can't eat meat sacrificed to idols, I think the purpose of this was wrong, then you shouldn't eat meat sacrificed to idols. But Paul said, I will eat meat sacrificed to idols because it's still provision of God. Even though how it died was wrong, I'm going to take it as provision. So I think that's a great lesson of okay, unfortunately, we've got fetal cell tissue. It's there. What do we do with it? And some people argue, let's make good come from it, even though it's unfortunate that we've got it. Other people argue the purpose deletes it and you cannot use this for any purpose and try to call it good when it's been aborted in the way that it has. And I think we might need to give each other some grace on this one, and we can go to vaccines if you want to, on letting each individual figure out what they believe about this, because not everybody thinks that it's evil because it was killed in an evil way. I didn't say that well, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it's equally, the abortion to me is equally tragic, whether the cells are used for medical purposes or if they're put in a trash bag and thrown out. Like, both ways.
It's wrong. It's sad.
Is sad. Okay, so let's get into specifically the vaccination issue.
Okay.
So, I hate the labels that have been put on people, like, oh, you're an anti-vaxxer. This is another one of those polarizing issues where we like to point our finger at the other person and say you're wrong. But a lot of people who are opposed to vaccinations for many, many different reasons. One of them is we're supposed to be good stewards of our body. Our body is the temple of God, and we need to care for it. And I feel like people on both sides of the vaccination issue will use that to say, that's why I'm vaccinating myself, is because I'm going to keep myself healthy. But then the other side will say, that's why I'm not going to vaccinate myself, because I'm not going to put that in my body. Is there actually a biblical stance people should take on vaccinations, or is it just to each his own?
Paul said, take a little wine for your stomach because the water's making you sick.
Which I agree with. I quote that to myself all the time.
As a former Baptist, you're happy to quote that verse. I think it's a biblical concept to take care of yourself. The debate is, I'm injecting foreign substances into my body when my immune system is perfectly capable of taking care of itself without help. And my immune system left to itself will probably win the day. There's also pushback because there's so much distrust of big pharma, some of it
Rightfully
so, and the government saying, or doctors saying, here are your vaccines, and not giving us a chance to say yes or no. You can opt out, but you have to say, I'm opting out.
Right.
And they do it for infants, and they do it for pregnant moms, and they do it all, and there's a lot of. Susan and I saw a commercial today for a shingles vaccine that was just fear. It's like, ooh, your shingles is lying dormant in your body.
Right.
If you don't get this vaccine, you may die from shingles. And that's extreme. Let's not throw out the good that may be there.
Yeah.
Okay? So,
maybe the person who created it was really passionate about protecting
100%.
people from shingles.
Aren't you glad the guy discovered penicillin?
Right.
You know?
But maybe another person involved is like, I don't really care about the person. I just want to make the money.
Or I
There's
care about the
both.
person, but we're also trying to make money. We have a bottom line. I mean, it can be both. Bottom line drives everything these days. So I think, yes, you're supposed to take care of yourself, and maybe you think taking care of yourself is not injecting foreign bodies into your body. Maybe you think taking care of yourself is. That's where we've got to give grace. And what we've lost in this thing, Lauren, along with everything else, is grace.
Yeah.
If we don't agree on this, then you're bad and you're stupid and you're mistreating your body and you're evil. And yes, there are some terrible things have happened because of vaccines.
Yeah.
There's probably some really good things that have happened because of vaccines.
Right.
And it's become so polarized, no one's talking about what's really going on. So I haven't gotten a vaccine or a flu shot, and I don't know how long. I have a friend who got Guillain-Barré from a flu shot. Very rare instance, but he did get it. And I've seen Guillain-Barré, serious stuff. And I kind of think, my body can take care of itself if it gets a bad flu case. I did get a COVID vaccine, and everybody around my world got so mad at me because they were worried about the COVID vaccine. But I had to go to Africa.
Right.
So I got the J&J, which is basically water. I got the lowest vaccine I could get. I got the J&J, and didn't have any side effects of it. But I had to get it, or I probably wouldn't have, if I didn't have to go to Africa and they required it.
Well, that's a whole other issue. So my husband had to travel to California, conservative California, right around the COVID
We all pray
pandemic.
for us. We both have so much baggage and issues.
That's okay.
And we're the
I
ones
lived in
doing the
California.
podcast.
It's fine.
You did.
So, but
Lord.
he had to go, and in order to participate in this event, you would have to take a COVID test every day and bring the negative result every day to the convention in order for him to participate, or it was just get the shot. And for him, it was like, it's really just easier to
easier
be
to get the shot.
Get this. Like it's a whole big issue. And it feels like whether you got the COVID vaccine or you didn't, somebody's going to be judging you pretty harshly for that.
Yes.
And
you did what? Or you didn't do what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then our doctors would be like, well, why did you opt out of getting it? Like, you didn't want to protect yourself. But anyway, the COVID vaccine is really what I feel like just brought this issue. Like, now everybody kind of has an opinion on it. But you do look at what's the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella. That vaccine.
18 months.
That they're giving, and I gave it to both of my children. I didn't have any concern, but I have really dear friends of mine who that set off epilepsy in their children. It's like a reaction. It's like, okay, you get the vaccine, you get the seizure. So is like, part of me wonders, I'm like, who is allowing this to happen? This seems like such an unfortunate, I won't say evil, but like, this vaccine's supposed to protect us, but is it the government telling us your children have to have this at 18 months? And then as soon as the child reacts to the vaccine and has an injury, like, it's like, well, sorry, guys. Like,
the cry is just separate them out. The MMR is the most controversial one. And we have experts in our church on this topic, and they have a vaccine injured child from it. And they'll tell you it was a vaccine. And their argument is we're not anti-vaccine. We're anti those three being combined.
Right, because it's a lot for a small body to take.
Some immune systems, some people sail through it. My kids did. Some immune systems aren't ready for it. And I have a dear friend who had an immune-compromised child to begin with, and they gave her the vaccine, and she's not spoken since. But he says she was probably weakened to begin with, and we shouldn't have given her the vaccine. Their argument is just separate them out. Pull out the three, and let's make them 3 individual vaccines. You spread it over time, and it's probably not near as effective. It also affects African-American children significantly higher rates than white children, and I don't know why. But the damage from the MMR to young black children is significantly greater. So there's something going on there.
Yeah.
So separate them out. But I don't have the right, again, to judge you as a mama if you think it's really wise to get this shot for your kids. You know what? You got to make that call. You got to pray that up, and I cannot dare speak into that because I have no right to do so.
Yeah. It's the whole us versus them thing. Because I remember when my son was in preschool, there was like an outbreak of something. One of the things that the kids were, I don't remember what it was, but a lot of the moms were terrified. They're like, if you didn't vaccinate your baby, you shouldn't be allowed to be in this preschool. And at first, I was kind of like, oh my gosh.
I think it was measles.
It must have been.
I think it just happened
like
10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was measles.
Yeah, because my son is, I don't know how old is he?
12.
12. Okay.
It happens.
So,
what's your son's name again?
Yeah, right. So speaking of my son, so he's in middle school now, and one of the recommended vaccines is for human papillomavirus, and it's sexually transmitted disease. They're like recommending to give it to all 12-year-olds, and I elected not to because I'm like, I don't personally have a fear of my son contracting a sexually transmitted disease right now, and I'm kind of on like, I feel some conviction about if we should be vaccinating ourselves against something that it's like, especially STDs. I'm like, I don't know. I know it can turn into cancer, and that's very tragic. But I'm like, just don't have sex. Don't have intravenous drug use. And if you do, we'll deal with it then. But I don't know. For me, I'm like, I don't want my child vaccinated against something that's totally preventable.
Go.
Yeah.
I respect you, and you raise your son.
That's it.
That's it.
All you have to say about that.
I have no opinion.
So I'm
going to mind my own business.
I don't want to make this whole conversation about vaccinations. I do think that it is give the other person grace.
Yeah, please.
Because everybody, like every single one of us who's parents, we are trying to do the absolute best thing for our child. We're not doing it to be evil or to hurt someone else. Like I have friends who are very passionate about homeopathy. And I'm like, yeah, they believe that is the best God-given way to take care of your body. And I don't know a lot about it, but I'm like, yeah, go for it. Don't judge me for giving my child Tylenol. I won't judge you for giving your child.
You give your child Tylenol?
Right.
What kind of parent are you?
Right. I was going to say arsenic. That's not the name of it. What's the thing that you can give children for pain that's natural?
Arsenic.
Anyway, you know, Jeff, don't you know? Okay. Anyway, but I do think, like a lot of the things we've talked about, this is about grace and allowing people to have different opinions. You can be a Christ follower on either side of this issue.
Susie and I say we've already gotten to do that. So our kids are raising kids, and we agree and we disagree with some of the decisions they make. And we say, you know what the good news is? We've already gotten to do that. It's not our problem. And so you're making decisions about vaccinating your kids or not vaccinating your kids, or giving them arsenic versus Tylenol or whatever.
It's gonna
There's
come
a
to me.
great
I'm having
story.
so many
Great story.
old
Susie
person
left me in
moments.
charge of Will when he was like 3 months old, and she said, give him 2 cc's of Benadryl when he wakes up because he's got a cold. Well, she got home. I said, I did exactly what you said. I gave him 10 cc's of Benadryl.
Oh no.
And so I kept doing this thing going, God, this feels like a lot of stuff going on this kid. I gave him 10 cc's of Benadryl, and the kid slept for like 72 days, but he was
my
fine. The doctor said, he's a big boy, he'll be fine. She said, you gave him how many cc's?
Right.
10, like you said. No, 2.
This is a problem with men and
This
listening.
is a problem in listening. Anyway, we say, we've already gotten to do that. I've already gotten to be that parent and make those decisions. You get to do that now, and I will bless you in your efforts. That needs to be our answer. And we got to get off this. And it's the Christians.
Yeah.
It's in the body of Christ.
It is.
Grace, friends, grace. Please extend grace on this.
So to put a bow on this, should the church speak out against taking vaccinations with aborted fetal cells?
ACF will never do that. I'm not going to speak for any other church. It's not my call. And I don't have enough biblical conviction about the topic to take I'm going to take a stand on a topic. I will if it got firm biblical evidence, and I just don't on this one.
So it's okay to be more passionate about speaking out against abortions than it is speaking out against these vaccinations.
Yeah, I think the Bible's pretty clear on abortion. I don't think it's clear on vaccines at all. And people disagree with me, but I've got to make the call for ACF. And we would never condemn someone. There's an entire denomination that just condemned in vitro fertilization.
We did an episode on that too.
And I would never do that. I just don't know that that's my place to speak to that when the Bible's not clear on it. If the Bible's clear on it, we got to go there. It's not clear on these, in my opinion. So no, we're not going to judge you. We're not going to call you out for it. Other churches might. Good for them. We're not going to.
All right. So
The list-
basically,
there's enough-
Pray about it. Make the choice
Enough
yourself.
hills to die on.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's die on the right hills, in my opinion. Yes. Pray about it, make the right choice.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Great question. This was, we hadn't received
Yeah,
this one
thank
before,
y'all.
so thank you so much for sending this. Again, keep the questions coming, acfellowship.org/podcast. We're taking anything and everything now, so there's probably a lot of people who disagree with us because we've taken on a lot of very controversial topics.
But it's not boring.
It's not boring.
We're not boring.
Right. All right, so thank you guys so much. Keep the content coming, and we will see
Thank
you
you.
guys next time.